G'day guys, Manny Extreme Auto Caravan and Camping. It's been a long time between beers. Apologies for not getting a detailed rundown video out for you guys. It's been mayhem behind the scenes, renovations, a bit of a change up in lifestyle, and a bit of a restructure in the business side of things. I've been focusing more on admin and paperwork as opposed to getting out and about, but hey, I thought, why not? I've got time in this job, let's do a rundown. So this one here is on a brand spanking new Leader Gold. Now it's only just over 20 foot. It's not a big van, and it's it's got an east-west bed here. So the roof space is very limited to what you can get up there compared to your larger vans where there's a north-south kind of bed. However, we've gotten so much on this roof, you'd flip out. Over 1400 watts, 1480 watts of solar on this roof. I was pleasantly surprised when I kind of laid out the tape measure and worked out what we can get up here. The only caveat is I've got to run 3 solar controllers, so there's essentially 3 systems running on the roof, and then all networked in together. But that's why we use the Victron stuff, because it gives you the ability to network the products together so they can talk to each other to work out what best to do with what's happening on the roof sun-wise. And we've done that. It's really cool. So we've got 200 watt panels along the left hand side here. We've got a split 180 and 120 on the front. So the front section of these is quite narrow, only just over a meter, actually slightly under a meter. So the 670 wide panels, which are the exotronic panels, were perfectly suited for this front section. I would have loved to have fitted a little bit more up there, but it just would have hung over a little bit. So as the roof kind of slopes in one section and then down to the front, which I'll show you guys at the end of this video, if we had fitted the 3 120s across, it just would have stuck out a little bit at the top and be a bit unsightly from the road. So we're talking about 80 to 100 mil here. Look, I could have done it, but when you stood on the left or right of the van and you'd look up towards the awning, it would have stuck up, so the 200 watt panel would have come in like this, then it would have just sat up like that, about that far above it, and I don't know, it's got to look good. These panels are black, they've got beautiful lines. This Caravan is black along the side, so you want it to look nice and still be functional. So I was still able to squeeze 300 watts in this front section. So down 60 watts, meh, doesn't matter. So we're looking at 300 watts on this front section, 600 down the side. We've done another 400 watts just behind the air conditioner, really towards the back, away from the shade, and the other 200 watt along here. And then we're able to squeeze another 180 in just behind the fridge vent. This has a compressor fridge, so at 12 volt, these guys really won't have to worry about energy. Like even in storage here, this is out in the open, they can leave their fridge on like indefinitely. You would have to park this in a shed with zero sun, and even then you got a fair amount of storage to last for a long time, which we'll get into. So all the Victron fruit, we've done the Touch 70 up here. So 3 solar controllers, they're all the 50 amp model. So pretty much you got 600 watts running into another, you got 400 running into the other, and 480 into the other. So that's 1480 watts of solar. We have got the Orion 50 amp DC to DC charger. Old mate's got a Everest, so we're going to have no dramas extracting 50 amps out of this Anderson system for him. We've also done the cerboGX to run the Touch 70, of course, and that's tucked in away nice and neatly. Multiplus 12 3120 amp inverter charger, the Series 1. Now, the questions go nuts with this one. Why do I use the 1 versus the 2? Old mate Dan's put out videos of it. Plenty of my good colleagues in the industry have done the same videos. It's purely size. They are like for like, essentially. It's a size thing. There is no way on the planet I would have been able to fit the Multi-2 in this location where the customer wanted this system. It just wouldn't fit. Same with the batteries. So we've got 2 PowerPaul Scouts. Now these are rated at 320 amp hours each. So there's 640 amp hours of lithium, 1480 solar. And the same thing with the PowerPauls. I'll show you shortly, guys. I'll give you some zoom ups. Because I can pretty much fit them into any orientation I like, I can put them left and right like this. I can put them end to end. I can put them side to side. What that does as, an installation company is it gives us versatility of where and how to install these batteries. And Paul's also released his series of bus bars, which have just making the job just look that much neater. You know, we would make 95 link cable between the batteries. Well, now Paul's just got these beautiful looking straight bus bars, and he accommodates side-by-side insulation and end-to-end. As with new standards, guys, these batteries are vented. So there is a vent on the top of this battery, the rearward battery going down, and there's also a vent on the front of this battery going down. Paul will give you 3 locations for the vent: top, side, and long edge. That way you can block up the other 2 and vent it anywhere. The actual vents that Paul, the vent kits that Paul supplies, has a filter on it, as well as like a spider. You don't want spiders jamming up in your battery and little wasp nest or something like that, which can happen. It's quite often. So that's the batteries. Now we've left space here for a 3rd possible battery. So old mate has the ability to push this out to 960 amp hours if he wants. And I don't have to do anything here but a small reprogram on the system and drop the battery in situ. So we've left enough gap behind this 2nd battery here to fit that 3rd battery. So the maximum potential in this being 960 amp hours, that's well over 12 kilowatt hours. That's a lot of energy, guys. That's running your air conditioner, your microwave, the induction cooking. You could be fully electric here. Even if you had the Swift hot water service, you'd be able to juggle that within your mix if you ran out of gas. You know, at 240 volt, at mains power, running the air conditioner, that's when you're only going to be mindful of what's going on with the system. So pretty much having the inverter on, running your hair dryer, putting the washing machine on, doing these things that run in dribs and drabs isn't really concerning because you're only using them for short periods. It's things that pull a lot of energy for long periods of time outside of sun hours, as well as during sun hours. And this is the air conditioners, so you've just got to be frugal. They're getting better with their efficiencies. This has the current model Dometic FreshJet 7, which is probably the most efficient on the market in my opinion, and we'll run it up and we'll show you some numbers. So these things are sort of in the vicinity to say 30 to 50 to 60 amps an hour at 12 volt. So they're pretty conservative, and you can drop them right back. They stagger right down and they run on a really low idle. So I've seen them only pull like 380, 400 watts at an idle. And if you've obviously got over 1,000 watts of solar on your roof, you're essentially going to be running at par and charging during good sunlight hours. And that's the key. It's management. So when you're off grid and you want to run this air conditioner and you know it's going to be a 40-degree day, I encourage customers to put it on early. So put it on at 8:30, 9 in the morning. Yes, you would have used energy overnight, but if you put it on at that time in the morning at say 26, 25 degrees, you're not trying to drag the ambient temperature of your Caravan, which is going to heat up during the day. You're not trying to drag it down from 40 degrees down to 25 like that. What happens if you do that is it just uses a lot more energy than you would if you put it on early. And the idea behind it is, cupboards, walls, furniture, blankets, everything absorbs heat and will radiate heat. Same with your windows. If you're planning on staying in your van for the day, you are better off just closing everything up, keeping the van nice and cool in the morning. Then your air conditioner is not going to struggle during the day. And you will look at your solar yield during the day, which will ramp up, 10:30, 11 o'clock. And it will be putting in more energy than what your air conditioner is using. So then you're gaining back what you lost the previous night, and also while your air conditioner is running. Now, when the Caravan warms up, as nighttime approaches, let's say you're in your van, your air conditioner's off, you've turned it off, it's you're going out for an hour or two, you come back from dinner, your van has warmed up. Are you better off leaving the air conditioner on while you're gone, or call it 2 hours, 3 hours, or are you better off letting the van warm up, sort of 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then turn it on? Well, because it's late in the day, as long as the sun isn't teeming in your van, it's not going to warm anything up. It would have already been cold from the previous few hours, so cooling it down isn't going to take a lot of energy. But if you didn't have the air conditioner on all day and you come home at 5 o'clock and your van is really, really hot, the best thing you can do is evacuate that hot air. So open up all your windows, if you've got fans, whatever, move all of that stinky hot air out as much as you can, close up your van and put the air conditioner on. You've at least given the air conditioner a head start, and it's not going to use as much energy. Now, you're probably thinking, like, does this really matter? Well, it matters in the sense of efficiencies, okay? So just remember, when you are off grid, you are reliant on no generator. You are reliant on your vehicle and whatever's happening on the roof. Portable panels you can control. Carry them. I recommend them, love them, because if you want to park in the shade, you can add to your system, just like this one's got. But you can't control the weather. It might be overcast for 5 days in a row. It doesn't matter how much solar you got, the more the better, but you're not going to reap all of those benefits of 1,500 odd watts of solar. You generally receive about a fifth, say a quarter of your energy, sometimes a third. It's thereabouts on an overcast day. So if you get 1,000 watts of solar and the sun's straight above you and you are receiving 1,000 on a sunny day, you can guarantee as sure as shit on a overcast day you're about 300 odd, maybe 300 watts thereabouts. But if you had, it's all relevant. If you only had 500 watts of solar on your roof and it's an overcast day, you're only going to receive about 150-ish, you see? So when the statement comes from me where I say you can never have too much solar, that's a prime example. If you litter your roof in solar, weight and budget in mind, of course, you're only better off. Once your battery's full, the chargers turn off. The energy just goes nowhere. It just stays there, okay? You turn an air conditioner on or a large load, it'll wake the system up. The system will say to itself, hang on, we've got a load going. Right, solar controllers, turn on. And whatever is available coming in from those panels on the roof, it will use that to offset what's being drawn. If there's more energy available than what's being drawn, well then it'll back off if your batteries are full. If your batteries are not full, it'll divert the energy into the batteries. Essentially, the only time the system really ever will back off is once the batteries are full. So if you come home at 12 o'clock and you see the batteries at 100%, and you come in here and you know it's a sunny day and you know it's midday and you go, hang on, we should be getting well over 1,000 watts. Normal. The solar controllers have moved to float, and what they will do is they will keep the batteries just in check. They go to float. If you turn a load on and start drawing energy, you will notice the solar controllers ramp up based on your load. It will try and keep the batteries full. That's their job. Well, there's not really much else to talk about the system. 640 amp hours of lithium. Got all the Victron stuff here. Got the multiplus 12 3120 amp inverter charger here. 350 amp solar controllers, a 600 watt array, a 400 watt array, and a 480 watt array. PV isolation down here. All the Busman fuses. Busman master fuse. Got the Smartshunt. Got the cerboGX. Got the OrionXS 50 amp DC charger for vehicle charging. So that's combined solar and vehicle. So these guys can pump in 50 amps plus, 70 odd amps, maybe from the roof, 100 amps total. Like they're gonna have a lot of energy coming in. Got the Touch 70 over there. Got a compressor fridge in this. Side Anderson plugs for compressor and portable solar. So our mate's able to run a transfer pump if he wants. Plug his compressor in. He can put portable panels into the system up to 50 odd amps. That's a lot of solar portable. And there it is. Cool bananas, guys. I'm going to show you some stuff down here. I'll just zoom in on it and I'll run through with what I've done down here just to give you an idea on this Leader Gold. If you guys got a Leader or a similar kind of Chase Lounge, I'll give you an idea of what you can and can't fit under here. Because it's got to be vented quite well just for airflow, and it's got to work. Thanks, guys. Actually, before I take you down and show you the stuff, I'll show you the new format screen. Well, it's not new format, but I don't think I've actually been through the new format screen with you guys yet. So I'll take the opportunity to do it on this. So the location for this Touch 70 is here. Instead of being where the factory red arc was, which was just here. And the reason being is because you can see that you would have to have this cupboard open if you wanted to see what's going on with the batteries. And that's fine. Look, it's out of the way of your head. It doesn't really matter too much. However, if you've got a choice, that's the beautiful thing about when you can custom make it. You can fit these anywhere, and this is where the customer wants this. Now these will time out and go completely black, so it's not, having a disco at night time in here. So it's a really good spot. It's an easy location to get to. So the format to looking at these screens, you've got your overview. Now because the DC charger, the Orion, has data comms with the system, we're able to see it here as a separate product. So you can actually click on it and it's going to bring up the DC charger's input. and all the parameters going on. So you're going to see your input, so that's your voltage. So that would be the voltage incoming to the DC charger. So this is a really good way of seeing whether or not the bloke who's done the Anderson plug in your vehicle has been done to spec with the correct gauge cable. This voltage will naturally fall, and that's normal. However, the amount that it falls is going to be based on your installation. Gauge of cable, how short the earth is in the vehicle, alternator, there's a bunch of specs. But either way, we program the DC charger based on input voltage. We watch what it does as we load it up. So that's your DC charger. You hit your little back arrow, if I can even press it with that hand. And the good thing about this screen is you can actually click on anything and it will dive into it. So that was the alternator. If you click on the solar, it's going to show you all the solar controllers. We have 3 on this: solar left hand, solar mid, solar right hand. I've turned the PV isolator off at the moment, so you're not really going to see much. And we'll put that on in a moment. Inverter charger, so if we click that, we can go into the inverter charger so we can see your AC input. Obviously we're free camping now, so you're not going to see anything on the AC inside. AC out, we're putting out 420 watts running this air conditioner at the moment. And we've got your DC wattage being pulled as well, which is roughly the same. There we go. And the amperage. Now that's the amperage that the inverter is actually pulling. So that's not what you're going to go by with state of charge. So 34 amps. But we're really drawing 41 because I've got the fridge running and some lights and the fans. Yeah. All right, so you live by this one. Whatever this says goes. 67% state of charge. At the current usage, with no solar, with nothing coming in, we can run for about 10 hours and 11 minutes before the battery is going to be flat. So that's at the current usage. Completely irrelevant because this would be like running this at night time. Okay, running the aircon all night, you're going to get 10 hours out of it on that load. Keep in mind, that would drop off. So as the van reaches temperature, this load will disappear. So this number will increase dramatically. It'll probably double that. If we click, where are we here? So if we go to brief, this is a good little screen to look at too. It's, you know, very similar to the Marine setup, which I love. You can change this to a white background as well if you wish, very easily, and you get a black background as well. If you touch it, you've got this little bit up the top here, this little slide screen. If you hit that, it's just going to give you another way to look at it as well. So you get your alternator, your shore power, and solar. And that's your AC loads at the moment. Click it again, back to the main screen. Now from this screen, up the top, you'll notice there's little switches up here. You click that, and that's going to access your inverter settings. So there's your mode. Okay, so we click mode, on, charger only, inverter only, and off. So when you are free camping, you're in the bush, on or inverter only. That will turn the inverter on, you run your microwave, run whatever you want. If you want to leave your inverter on, leave it on, just know that it uses some power in standby. When you go to a caravan park, you want to run it to charger only. Now the reason we run charger only is because if you are at a caravan park and you've got this set to the on mode, on is automatic. On will sense when the grid goes down and when the grid comes back on. So I'll give you an example of why I don't like people to leave it on the on mode when you're at a caravan park. If you've got your air conditioner running because it's 40 degrees overnight and it's 2 in the morning and you're about to leave the next morning to head out to a free camp, right? You're at a caravan park, you're on mains. The power goes down at 2 in the morning. Because of the auto system, it is instantaneous. You won't even wake up. It won't even make a beep. The air conditioner will be pulling all this energy and all of a sudden it's flicked over to batteries. You will wake up with a depleted battery. It would, I don't know what it'll be down by, but the point is you will be discharged for no reason when you're on the grid. Now, what we encourage people to do is put it on to charger only. If you leave it on charger only and the power goes out, you'll know because your air conditioner is now turned off. Now, that'll probably wake you up, but it makes you aware that, hey, the power's out, no worries, I've got no air conditioner. Or you can say to yourself, well, bugger it, we'll stay here another night because we need a charge or whatever. Or we'll run the air conditioner for a few hours. You put your timer on your air conditioner for 2 hours or whatever, and away you go. There's nothing worse than waking up to a flat battery when you've been on mains power and their grid goes down. It puts you on the back foot. It doesn't make for a nice day. So yeah, charger only for caravan parks, on and inverter only for when you're free camping. Now if you do run a generator when you're free camping, on is the setting I recommend because you've got control over the generator. You know when your generator's off, obviously you'll hear it. But the good news is at least it's going to flick over automatically. You can go fill up your generator, more fuel, do whatever you do, and then come back. Now, you got a system like this, you shouldn't need a generator, but there are people that like to park in the shade and they carry generators with them for a backup. With the Victron system, you can do that. Very simple. An example here would be if you've got a Honda One and you go free camping quite a bit. So if you had a Honda One, you would put this to the on mode, you would set it, you would go to the shore current limit and you would change this to something really low. Take note, 3.1 amps. Now what does that mean? That means, as long as that's in the on mode, if I was to plug a Honda One, those really small generators, into this system right now, the maximum it is going to pull from that Honda One is 3.1 amps, which is, you know, 800 odd watts or just thereabouts. It will stop it from clipping off. So those Honda One generators are great because they are so light, they use bugger all fuel, and you've got power on tap. It's really easy. Not enough to run an air conditioner directly because of the startup current. However, it is enough to pull 800 watts out of. Now, 800 watts is 800 watts. If you've parked in the shade with 1500 watts of solar, you know, you're not going to get 1500 watts of solar. So it's great to have these as a backup if you guys are on the road full time and you need it. The point is it gives you a backup. You know, if you've got storage to throw a little Honda One in, these things are tiny, they weigh bugger all. They're cheap as chips. You pick them up secondhand for next to nothing these days. I've got a Honda One, and when I do my massive free camps, if I know I'm going to be somewhere for a very long time in a shaded spot, I take it with me. And I can have the air conditioner going, I've got the microwave going, you know, I'll put my kettle on and everything runs. Even if the generator turned off, it's still going to run, but I'll know about it, you know, because I won't hear the Jenny. So I go start up the generator again, the system recognizes it, and it will only pull 3 amps from the generator. You know, Victron's one of the only systems that have input control like this. And in the caravan industry, this is a great feature. I absolutely love it. If you go to a farm stay, you know, set this for 10 amp, put it on charger only. It's only going to pull 10 amp from old mate's power supply. You know, there's multiple examples. I was in Yardie Creek. If you guys know where that is, the Yardie Homestead, they limit you to about 6 amps when you sign in. You know, and true story, I did that, you know, I actually set it for 5 amps. I didn't really need to plug in, but I did because I was in a shady spot. And I wanted to cook something with the air fryer, and I had the air conditioner going. So I'm outside, got the air fryer going, and old mate's come past in his little golf car, and he's pulled me up. He said, mate, you can't do that. And I said, no, it's okay. I've got a full Victron system. I can. And he got on his back foot, the poor bugger, because he didn't understand the technology. You know, you can only run this. You can't run an air fryer. An air fryer pulls, you know, 2,000 odd watts or something, and, you know, that's going to make the circuit breaker trip. I said, well, it hasn't tripped yet. So I showed it to him, and he was like, mate, if everyone did this, we'd just tell people not to worry about it. We'd just say, set your thing for 5 amp and away you go. And I did that. I set my touchscreen to 5 amps, and I was still able to run everything. And when those loads disappeared, all of that energy went straight into the batteries, completely automatic. All right, that's enough of the screen. They're pretty simple. You know, the Victron screens are very easy to use, and this has updated, as you can see, from the previous format. That's why I keep harping on about them, because who knows, in a few years' time, this might change again. And you guys that have these systems will get that update. This is just a screen to a computer at the core of it. That's it. Very simple. It's completely updatable. All right, I'll take you down here, show you what's going on. So big venting. There was a massive door here. We've gotten rid of that. We've put the 2 big vents there to inhibit some airflow. It's hard to see down here. It is so tight. But there are 3 solar controllers, 1, 2, and 3. Solar left, mid, and right. There's the 50 in that corner and the serbo. There we go. Down there we go. PV isolation here. Busman master fuses for all the 12 volt. So you've got main feed in, solar left, mid, right. DC charger, main 12 volt, and right hand Anderson high current. Oh, right down there, there's the shunt, and there's Paul's batteries. So there's a vent on the front of this one. Oh, try to see, you might be able to see it. There we go, down that corner. So there's a vent there, and the other one's at the back there. So the batteries that are both here, I can add another one down here later on. So we can get to the 900 odd amp hour if we need, but there's those bus bars. How good are they? Just neatens up the job, and they're flexible. They're not solid, you know. So that's like that. It's like a braid, really high current rated. It's just really cool to see these nice bus bars. Like them. The Manager 30, you know, we've exceeded what this can receive and put out by a lot. You know, almost 3 times. So there it is there. Microwave is obviously on, ready to go. I'll do some rundowns in a minute, guys. I'll show you the solar. Alright, so we've got 3 200s. Then we've got the 300 up the front, another 200, and the 180 here. So 3 strings running on this roof, and there's the Dometic FreshJet 7 pumping away. So there is actually space for more solar, but not a lot. But like I said, we try to keep things away from shade if we can avoid it. And here's a good example. It's early in the morning, and check out the shade from the air conditioner. So that is north, okay? There's a big tree here, so we've got a lot of shade. So see, check out the shade that the Caravan's putting. Nothing. Take note of the shade from the air conditioner. There's shade, okay? Just kissing this panel, but check out the gap we've been able to give this. So that gap is on both sides. But look at this. This is why we don't, you know, you're not going to jam. If I were to put a panel there, it would be great, but old mate's not going to yield too much because we would have had to have fitted it right up against the back of this air conditioner. Now, in my eyes, there's no point in jamming panels right against an air conditioner if you can avoid it, because it's going to be in shade. You're going to get something out of it, but yeah, it's not really worth it. So we've, you know, this is in full sun. This is in full sun. Very lucky to be able to get this right up against this vent. Super close. In factory form, this van did come with just, you know, simple AGM batteries. They were out here. They're quite large boxes too, so old mate's going to use them as storage, you know, silage hose or, you know, just tools, random tools. It's going to get dusty. It's in the line of fire, but you know, outside storage is primal. 2 Anderson plugs there, so we've rewired his existing one, and we'll put labels on things just so old mate knows what's going on. So there's your high current 12 volt in and out. So you can plug regulated solar into that if you wish, or run a compressor. So he's got a fair bit of power there. And there's the old panels there. So these ones, look, they're okay, but see the back sheet? There's a lot of space. So there's like 50 mil, and that's on both sides of it. So these panels are essentially 100 mil longer than what they need to be. And the exotronics are only 1480 by 670. In other words, I couldn't squeeze 3 of these, this make of panel, along that passenger side without it sticking over by about 120 mil. So the choice was simple to obviously swap them out and change them. So essentially this whole thing has been changed. The only thing that really remains is the existing busman fuses that are under the bed. Actually, I'll show you that now. So under the bed on the east-west setup, is where the red arc manager was. So the manager went across there, and then it had feeds into the busman main supply here. So we've basically just fired this back up with direct 12 volt, which it was originally, and the red arc was on this spare one here. So the red arc would be fed into this. Power used to come straight into this bus. It would feed back to the batteries which are outside. That's it, but no charging is done by this anymore at all. So it's main power in and only. The only thing that you could charge through this is, you know, solar, which is, it's only on 6 mil cable anyway for the you know, that small Anderson existing plug. The new one that we've fitted, we've put on 6BS, so you can pull some big current out of it. Your breakaway battery, which is standard on these, obviously you can charge from the house system with that little orange light back to the off position, or then up, which is charging when you're driving from the trailer plug. So that's all in the underbed area, guys. The red arc system completely removed, and our system's under there, ready to go. Right, so it's just gone 11 o'clock. We've still got an array in shade, but we've managed to squeeze 730 odd watts out of it. So what we'll do is we've got nothing on at the moment, it's just the inverter on standby. We'll go the air conditioner on, and we'll go 19 cold. Alright, and we'll get the microwave here, so we'll keep the air conditioner going, and we'll whack that in there. A little bit of water in the girl. Go over to watch what we're pulling. So that's the FreshJet 7 ramping up. I don't know if you can hear it, but it is ramping up very slowly. It's so quiet. So what we're looking at here, hopefully you guys can see it without the glare, is the air conditioner is using about wattage there, ramping up 700 odd watts. We're only receiving 740 solar, and we're using 16 odd amps from the battery. Now even in this condition, so that air conditioner's ramped right up now. That's cold. Yep, she's going. Right, so even in this situation where you're only receiving 700 watts of solar, we're only using 15, 17 amps. So even with 640 amp hours at the current usage, you've still got a massive amount of time remaining because you've got this big number offsetting. So obviously as the next hour or two approaches and we get out of the shade from that tree, this number is going to jump up significantly. We're going to see some big numbers here. So we've got the air conditioner running. So we've got the microwave and the air conditioner running, and this is just all off grid. And there we go. So there's your loads. And this is auto ranging too. So this will change. It'll sort out the biggest load, and then it'll bring in a little bit of a graph here, which is why you can see this one's all the way up here, and obviously as this number increases, this will start to drop away, and you end up with this sort of flowing graph. And we're pulling 120 from the batteries, and then there's the air conditioner still running there. Beautiful. 30 seconds. Nice. There we go, microwave and the air conditioner. All off grid, all from batteries, 640 amp hours. It's a perfect little system.